Welcome to Word for the Day. And I've just got back from church. We've had a lovely service this morning, and it was really great to be back taking communion and just wonderful. Now, yesterday, if you remember, I spoke about reconciliation. And Advent is a time when we can reflect and think about ourselves and the coming of Jesus. Reconciliation is a healing process, and sometimes there's no quick fix, but it is good for the mind, the body, and the spirit. And I always remember being taught at school about the bowl of fruit, that one bad apple affecting all the rest. And I think this can be said for ourselves, that if there's one part of ourselves, maybe part of our lives, festering away that isn't quite right, it will eventually ruin the rest. And there is something to be said for a clear conscience. It certainly brings about peace. You've probably had a time when you've been worrying about something. Maybe you said something or you've done something wrong, and it just keeps coming back in your mind. So I said yesterday, have a think, what is it that may be in your life that you could do some reconciliation during this time of Advent? Maybe if you've lost a friend because you've had an argument, or maybe you've had a row with a member of your family, maybe your children. Think about how those differences can be resolved. And as I said, sometimes it takes time. And it's just a matter of perhaps trying and trying and trying again. But if you're trying, you're doing what Jesus wants you to do, to bring about reconciliation. And I was thinking of the couple of verses today, the story of the woman who'd been caught in adultery. And as they stood there asking him questions, Jesus straightened up and said to them, "Whichever one of you has committed no sin may throw the first stone at her." And then there's that other verse in Matthew, Matthew chapter 7, verse 5. How can you say to your brother, "Let me take the speck out of your eye," while there's still a beam in your own eye? Some translations it says a plank. In other words, you need to look at yourself first. And I do get annoyed sometimes with people who really openly critical other people, especially at the moment. I know the government has been heavily criticised for the way that they've dealt with COVID. But in all honesty, nobody has ever faced this before. We are in unprecedented times. I know that our government probably hasn't got it right, but then neither has a lot of governments around the world. And even if they have got it right, it still seems to be coming back. But there was some hope actually. Last week, this morning, I spoke about this in the Holy Communion service. So if you're listening, you're going to hear it twice. But last week, I was at a partnership in World Mission and spoke to different people around the world. And for example, I spoke to somebody in Brazil, and they've got 170 deaths, 170,000 deaths so far, 6 million people affected. And the Anglican Communion are trying to raise money to send out to help the churches there. In fact, they do lots of projects around the world, about 39 that they've got at the moment. But there was something that really struck me, and this was about the country Malawi, and I wanted to share this with you because I think this is something that perhaps we need to reflect on and ask ourselves, could we do this in this country? It was shared with us that the nation of Malawi, which we know is a very, very poor country, there's about 20 million people there, so less than a third that there is in Great Britain. They were waiting, really, the university hospital there were waiting for all these deluge of COVID cases and fatalities to come. And the previous president, who had been, I believe, I'm not quite sure the political situation, but is no longer in power. And there had been a second election where there had been a new president, a Pentecostal minister, who I understand had called the whole nation, that's everyone, to 3 days of prayer and fasting against COVID. Now, in a country of nearly 20 million, very poor country where about 78% of the population only earn about $1.90 a day, this is what I've been reading, they've had no more than 200 deaths from COVID, and they're only seeing 1 or 2 cases a month. Now, there are probably some medical reasons for this, maybe geographical reasons, and also, but they believe that God heard and answered their prayers as a nation. And I was thinking about this, having a look in the Bible. Is there any verses that I could find that would kind of match this miraculous happening? This is what they believe. And I came across this verse, 2 Chronicles 7, verse 14. And this is the one that I just want to finish with and for you to reflect upon today. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. I think it was the last bit really that really caught my imagination. Will heal their land. And I think it's just wonderful that a place like Malawi took 3 days of fasting and prayer. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we too as a nation could do that? And actually, whatever religion we are, Muslims as well, maybe Hindu prayers, if they pray and they fast, we could collectively do this as a nation and see what happens. Well, I hope you have a good day for the rest of the day. I can see the sun's out, which is wonderful, because I've got another funeral shortly this afternoon. So have a good day, and I hope you join me tomorrow for another reflection really on Advent and about how we can work to change ourselves for the better. Good day.